Inspire, expire, installe-toi confortablement.
Bonjour, bienvenue à cette nouvelle pause inspirante de Mohamed Karim Lahlou, activateur zen et enthousiaste.
Je suis profondément convaincu que chaque personne est née pour accomplir quelque chose de spécial, pour partager avec son environnement quelque chose d'unique. Je suis également convaincu que chaque personne possède en elle les ressources et les moyens pour exprimer son unicité, accomplir son destin. Nous avons juste besoin d'apprendre à nous connecter à ces ressources. Je vous propose aujourd'hui de vous parler d'un outil puissant qui m'aide tous les jours à me connecter à ces ressources. Il s'agit du invité développé par Steven Rudolph, notre invité. Steven est un pédagogue américain. Il est également auteur, conférencier et formateur. Installé depuis les années 90 en Asie, il utilise le cadre des intelligences multiples pour créer le M-Test, un outil simple et scientifique qui permet d'identifier et de mesurer le potentiel de chacun et chacune. Steven va nous présenter plus particulièrement son concept Feed Your Tigers, un moyen de se connecter et de nourrir ses natures les plus importantes. To begin, what is the Feed Your Tigers concept?
So the Feed Your Tigers concept, well, I spent 21 years in India. And while I was there, I did a deep exploration in the idea of human potential, like what makes everybody unique and how they could best apply their energies and their talents to whatever it is that they do. And what I discovered, well, 21 years is a long time. And in order to simplify what it was that I learned, I found a really good metaphor to explain it just with the single symbol of a tiger. So what that means is that each of us has natural abilities inside, and those abilities or tendencies, they're kind of like tigers. Tigers need to eat, right? And so these abilities that are inside of us, each one of them needs to eat. They essentially dine on activity. So for example, if I talk about somebody's entertaining nature, like a quality that some people have, they have this tiger inside them that just wants to attract attention and amuse other people. And it comes naturally to them. And you might see that in some friends that you know or some colleagues, right? And so you can see that these people just have this ability to attract attention and amuse others. So that tiger represents that natural ability and it needs to eat. And they're different ones. So there's like I guess you could say an administrative tiger. Some people love to get work done. And there's a healing tiger. Some people like to help other people get out of pain or imbalance. And there's an adventurous tiger and so on. So that's what the concept is. It's basically identifying our natural abilities, calling them tigers, and then figuring out which tigers need to eat what on a day-to-day basis to kind of make you feel satisfied.
What problems do you aim to solve with the Feed Your Tigers concept?
That's also a really good question, right? So it's something like this. We see people endeavoring every day to try to make a better life for themselves. Everybody is in a current position right now, and the world is constantly changing around them. So at best, we would just like to keep up and just at least stay in the position that we are. And even better than that, we would like to get to a position where we would have more control over things or to be able to get the things that we desire more easily. And so this tiger's concept can be applied that way, which is in order to get the kind of results that you want, whatever it might be. And that could be like in your job, or that could be in, your personal life as well. If you can identify which are your tigers, and especially which are your strong tigers, and you can align them with what you do, that's your fastest route to get to whatever it is that you want. So for instance, if somebody has a really strong educative tiger, right? They love to teach, they love to explain things, right? And their desire is to, let's just say that they want to do some online programs. They want to do something related to some sort of online program. So it would make sense for them to connect their educative tiger to making those programs, as opposed to perhaps doing the visual things, maybe the graphics, or as opposed to doing the business related things around that. So by figuring out which your strongest tigers are, and by aligning it with the activities that you do, you can more quickly reach the goals that you're trying to achieve. And that has a utility also, like in, say, career selection, right? If somebody's goal is they want to have a certain amount of wealth, or they want to lead a certain type of lifestyle, or be happy at what they do, by figuring out which tigers are strong in you, you can identify which types of work would be more aligned with your inner self, with who you are. And that will bring you to those points much faster, because there's no fun trying to be something that you're not. Right. If you don't have tigers in that area, if you're not strong in that area, and you're making an attempt to, become successful, but you're not, it's going to take you an exceedingly long period of time to get there. And then even if you do wind up getting there, there's a really great quote by the writer Robert Benchley, who once said that it took me 14 years to realize I had no talent for writing, but I couldn't quit, because by then I'd already become too famous. So there you are. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you go after.
Yeah, and more we are aligned, more we are peaceful and enthusiastic. How and why did you create this concept?
Well, it wasn't like I set out to create it. I had set up a school while I was in India. And what I noticed was that my students, when they got to a certain age in the school, they needed to figure out what jobs they wanted to do, which careers they were going to go after in their lives. And I was trying to figure out what's the right way to actually select a career. How do you do it? And there were lots of books out there that talked about career choice. But I was not really satisfied with the models or the methods that were being presented. So I decided to, being in India, and India is like a storehouse of really the depth of the knowledge of life. It has Ayurveda and so much wisdom in the traditional books. So I wanted to see what people over a period of 5,000 years had encoded, what they wrote down. So one of my colleagues there is a Sanskrit scholar, and he's got a library that's just massive with all of these ancient books. And so I went and I met with him over a number of years. And he shared with me what the people of the past living in India had to say about human potential. And through that study, I was able to derive the model that I created. My goal was just to make it, whatever knowledge was already there, to make it more simple, to make it more simple and easy for people to apply in a modern age. Sometimes when you read into some of the traditional literature, they were in a very different time and context. So the way you're reading it doesn't always apply immediately. You have to understand their context. And, for example, in the old days when they had schools, they were much smaller schools, and it was one teacher and maybe like 6 students, and the students lived with the teacher like for years, maybe for like 10 or 15 years, you lived with your teacher before you went out into the world. So I had to kind of extract that information out and then make it applicable to today's system. So that's kind of how it happened. And the why it happened was really to help my students in the school figure out their careers. But then after that, it just blossomed, it mushroomed, and now we use it for all sorts of purposes to help companies in recruiting, or people in HR in helping make transformations, change transformation, or life coaches who are working with people trying to find life balance, or in the career space, people who are unemployed trying to get back into the workforce, and even for like retired people trying to figure out what to do with their golden years. So a lot of people are using it for many different ways.
How can this concept be beneficial for companies?
Anytime you have people working together to try to solve some sort of problem, you're always going to wind up facing conflict at some point. And the reason is because each of us is unique in our construction. So what makes me, me, and what makes you, you, is really quite different. We share some overlaps and some common understandings of life and maybe our company and the world that we're in and what it is even that we have to accomplish together. But even still, when both of us look at a problem that we're trying to solve together, we're looking at it completely differently. Some people might be highly creative, they have creative tiger. And so they think that the solution to a particular problem is to is to dig into their creativity. Use creativity as a way to get yourself out of a problem. Whereas somebody on the other side might think that the way to solve the problem is by trying to be more efficient, or to get more specific and to try one thing and be really focused on perfecting one way or one approach to something. And so you might come about that problem in a really different way, and then you have a fight, an argument, and one person thinks their way is better, the other person thinks that their way is better. So and then you start to add people onto the into the equation. If it's a team of 5 or 10 or 20 people, and then you have managers and so on. So what we need to understand in a group setting is that if we understand different people's worldviews, that what makes them them, we understand which people have which tigers, it helps to have a clear understanding of their perspective, how they're looking at it, and it reduces conflict. And it gives us an ability to be less judgmental and even to consider other ways of approaching problem solving. So the first thing I think is that it reduces conflict between people when they're trying to work on something together and to solve a problem. And then that has all sorts of implications. So fewer conflicts, or conflicts that are more quickly resolved, wind up producing, there's greater productivity. More work gets done. People have fewer fights. There's less politics that happens. There's less turnover. When people are getting along, you're in a better mood, so there's less stress. So there are all sorts of positive qualities and effects that evolve out of that. But it all comes down to understanding your uniqueness, what makes you uniquely you, and to understand that other people's construct, the way that their worldview is different from yours. And when you can step into their shoes and see it from their perspective, that is very enabling. It's also enabling when you decide to put people onto a team, for instance, to be sure that it's not lopsided with too many creative people, or too many people who are highly administrative or protective, or people who are too adventurous. So by having a mixture of people, that really enables projects or different types of tasks that are being done to be much more dynamic and rich. Let me put it that way. Yeah.
Steven, you are founder and director of Multiplators International. So could you share your experience, how this concept can help entrepreneurs, managers?
Well, as an individual and as a member of a team, a group of people, we are constantly looking at the world through what I call like MN vision, using MN vision. It's like, the way that I can describe it, it's kind of like if you've seen the movie The Matrix, and when Neo gets to the point where he can actually see the Matrix, right? And then he starts like being able to do, things that are unbelievable in terms of his, dodging bullets and all of those sort of things. It's kind of something like that, which is when I'm working with my partner, let's just say, and something comes up and we're having a discussion about it, I'm looking at him, understanding how he's looking at it. And then when I express myself, he's really getting the way that I'm seeing it. So there's a level of communication that's like really high. And even, for example, if we have a colleague of ours on our team who's struggling with something, or there's 2 other colleagues who might be struggling with something, we can understand where that point is, and we can remove the friction very, very quickly, to either, like, maybe somebody's not very protective by nature, so they're not so keen on finding mistakes and keeping after them and, being cautious about certain things. They might be much more ready to go with the flow. And so when we know that about a person, we can then decide to get somebody to back them up, or to, take a project away from them and give it to somebody else if it's something sensitive and if small mistakes are made, like, for example, with financial document or something where there's like critical data that you can't make a single mistake. You have to, you would have to give that to somebody else. Also in the area of recruitment, like, for example, when we decide we need somebody, we're not just looking for skills. We take a look to see what the nature is of a person. And so we look at which tigers of theirs are strong. And that's even written out before we even choose them. And the reason for that is because when people come to apply for a job, let's just say, and you're often looking at how they present themselves and how their resume might look and some experience that they've had in the past. But what it doesn't tell you is what their innate ability is or what their innate talent is or potential. And here's where it's important, because quite often over the duration of somebody's time in a particular role or in a particular company, the responsibilities will change. And so skills aren't enough. You have to keep relearning. And if you choose somebody whose natural abilities are the kind that you're looking for, then they'll be able to learn really quickly and relearn really quickly. So we are really careful in using what I call this MN vision, almost like the eye of the tiger, right? In choosing people for the jobs that we, for the roles when we hire people. So we use it in hiring, we use it on a day-to-day basis. When we sort of feel out of alignment, like, when I know something's going wrong and I don't feel at ease, I check my tigers and I'm basically saying, okay, are any of them underfed right now? Like, I have this musical thing. I love to play music. And sometimes in my creative is also really high. I like to write music and stuff. So sometimes it starts like eating me from inside. And I say that, like, if you don't feed your tigers, they eat you. And so I can detect that frustration or that unused potential kind of eating away at me. And then I know, okay, I have to stop working now and I've got to go do something musical for a little while. And then I do, and I'm refreshed and I come back. So what it does is it enables me to identify when unused potential is irritating me, and also when there's certain potential of mine that's being overused. So I might know that my administrative qualities are not that strong. And when I feel that stress coming on, I know what it is. And then it also helps me to change my schedule, to prioritize. So I know the things that where my tigers aren't nearly as strong, I know to do in the morning, when it's quiet really early, when I'm not going to be disturbed, or perhaps sometimes, in an off moment, when I know that, or I can set aside some time and shut my phone off and make sure that I'm not distracted by anything else while I'm doing those things. So there's some practical tactics that I utilize to help keep my smaller tigers, served properly with a lot of support, sometimes getting assistance when I need it. And I'm not afraid to ask for help when I know I have a smaller tiger that I have to, when I have to deal with something. My numerical skills are not my strongest of tigers. So I know insource at that point, get somebody to come in to cross-check and to help me do that. And sometimes delegating there leaves me time to work on the areas where I'm stronger. Like my entrepreneurial tiger is like enormous, as is my creative and my educative. So in those planes, then I know, I can manage myself. And well, then there's also the other side, which is that my larger tigers sometimes can get out of control. They wind up and when they team up with each other, something creative and educative and entrepreneurial, a new product for an educational, might start going so far and fast that I leave the other team members behind. And that's also a problem. So you also have to know how to keep your strengths in check. So that's another thing I'm doing on a daily basis, knowing how to see how my team members are also keeping up with me in the areas where I'm stronger. So it really provides like it's something which it's remarkably simple, and it doesn't take up a lot of like thought process. It's just like putting on some glasses, or some AR glasses or something like that, vision, and whatever else it is that you're doing, it just enhances it. So it's kind of like a lens in that sense, or kind of some sort of a catalyst, like adding salt to food. It's already there and it's good, and just it makes it better. So that's really how I see this multiple natures in the tiger concept.
Thank you so much for sharing your own experience. Just before to finish this podcast, what message?
One message I would like to share
with
is
our listeners?
You're okay where you are right now. You have everything you need right now. And it often doesn't feel like that. We all have had this feeling that we're not enough. And if we just had this thing more, then we would be okay. And the challenge, I think, really is if you figure out where you are, what that okay is, it makes it easier to align your natural you with what it is that you do. And then you'll automatically start finding the fastest route forward, instead of seeing that you lack something, personally. Your natures, all your tigers are right there. It's really just a matter of recognizing them and aligning them. And so, there's not much that you need to add, but if you can just get that vision and align yourself, align your existing tigers better with what you do, all the things will start to happen. So that's the message.
Thank you very much, Steven, for this moment and to share with us this amazing concept that can help many people to be aligned and to be more peaceful and enthusiastic. And like that, we can build a society where joy and peaceful can be for everyone something very natural. Thank you very much.
Merci pour ton écoute et au plaisir de te retrouver pour une prochaine pause inspirante. Reste inspiré et connecté, le monde va aussi évoluer grâce à toi.